Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast. I have Brian Dean here and Lynn Bender. Before we kick things off, I do have a question for you. So, between the two of you, you guys have dedicated a lot of time building wheelchair tennis in the Midwest. When you look back at those camps, clinics, and tournaments, what's the moment that shows why this work matters most? Lynn, we'll start with you if that's all right.
I look back and I see that 6-year-old little girl that comes out onto the court scared and nervous for her first time.
Mm,
And I see by the end of the camp the joy that friendships and being on a tennis court and hitting a tennis ball over the net brings her, her
mm,
parents, her siblings. And then to see them come back year after year from a 6-year-old to an 8-year-old to a 10-year-old, and to see them grow up and that's their friend group. And to hopefully see them competitive adults and successful adults. I love seeing the progression over the years.
yeah, that's awesome, Brian.
Well, like Lynn, the arrival of the player, whether it's a player it's their first time there, or it's a player that they know this is probably their last camp uh, because they're aging out.
Mm,
When they arrive with their parents, when they see their friends, when they see what I call the tennis community, the happiness on their face from the beginning of the camp,
mm,
and then when the camp's ending and the energy, even when they're ending, and the
mm,
kids have worked so hard for 2 days,
yeah,
and then you see the impact being with their friends, being with their parents, being with their coaches,
mm,
and then see you next year.
mm,
We can't wait for the camp to start again. Like,
yeah,
can we do this again tomorrow?
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
it's so exciting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start the wheelchair tennis camp here in Cincinnati, just to give those kids more opportunities. But yeah, I echo both of what you both said. One of the things that I look at is I like fostering independence, and I think one of the cool things, and this impacted me as a kid, is the older kids mentoring the younger kids, and we have Matthias, who's been on the podcast. He's now over the age of 18, and he's coming to help out with our camps now too. And obviously, the kids still love him, and it's just great to have that sort of mentorship and like the guidance of helping to teach independence with those kids. So I think that's invaluable. So anything else you guys want to add?
I just love it when the parents text me and they'll be like, "Is so and so coming to the camp?"
Yeah,
Their daughter's so excited. They want to know who's coming. When is the next one?
yeah,
When one ends, when's the next one? They're
yeah.
so excited because they get to see that friend group from camp to camp, whether you're in a chair or not.
Mm,
Every kid loves to go to camp, right? Every kid loves to see those friends year after year.
yeah. Okay, well, everybody, welcome to the Rolling Forward podcast, a podcast of people who keep rolling forward no matter what life throws at them. Real people, real stories, powered by purpose, resilience, and a drive that never ends. I'm Zach Sikora. Spina bifida didn't stop me. It just gave me a better excuse to sit down while I take over the world. Today's funny shirt is I can't stand wheelchair jokes. Obviously, the pun being that people in wheelchairs can't stand. Generally, I can stand, thankfully. But yeah, and this is a Zach Sikora made shirt. You can find my shirts over at rollingforward.printful.me. And if you have a funny shirt a funny shirt idea, put it in the comments. It might make it into my shop. Now, let's roll into today's episode with Brian and Lynn. Brian and Lynn, I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming on, and it means so much to me that you both are here. I just want to share with everybody that both of you guys came from out of town. We are here this weekend doing the Cincinnati Junior Wheelchair Tennis Camp. Super excited you guys came down. It wouldn't be possible without both of you. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. But before we get into any tennis related stuff or anything else, I wanted to talk about how we know each other, and it's kind of obvious, but Lynn, yours and my story go back a lot more than just coaching and stuff like that. So, can you start? Can you just share how we know each other
Sure.
from your perspective?
Well, being involved 25 years now in the wheelchair tennis world, it has a long history of me working with the Grand Rapids Wheelchair Sports Association years ago. running a local program. And, once I started running the tournament years ago, Zach was a junior playing the circuit as a junior with some of his friends. And I remember traveling with my husband, and we would see, Zach and his friends, back in high school days, and, watching you play, and, kind of seeing your journey through the years of, where you've come. And it's really fun to see it come back full circle. But yeah, going back from years ago, seeing you compete as a junior and now compete as an adult.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I'm in a way paying it forward as far as that goes. So you've definitely been one of my inspirations for doing what I do, and but yeah, just so everybody knows, your husband's in a wheelchair. He's paralyzed from, I believe, the waist down, if that's right. And then Brian, let's kick it over to you. How do we know each other?
Well, we met through obviously the wheelchair camps. I met Lynn first at a up-down event that I was playing in with Hunter Heck. He was my first wheelchair student, and Lynn introduced me, this is 11, 12 years ago, to the idea of joining the wheelchair committee. And so, that's where our relationship, our friendship began.
Yeah.
And what you maybe don't know is I heard about this high-level player from Cincinnati that I had to get in touch with. Once Lynn got me on the committee, and she's like, "You've got to get in touch with this world-class player, Zach Sikora." And I'm like, "Okay, who's this guy?" Anyway, so I heard so much about you, Zach, for several years before finally we connected at the camps. And then our friendship was easy and immediate. And then jumping ahead, we won't get into it, but the fact that your aunt plays tennis at my club, you know, and I didn't connect those dots just till recently. So that's been fun. So
yeah, cool. I was trying to think. It's probably been what, 6 years since we've known each other, if not maybe longer, something like
probably
that.
a little longer, but right.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been awesome. I did take a little break from tennis, and I've been with Cincinnati Tennis Foundation since 2018, 2019, something like that. So I think that's when I got re-engaged with coaching and doing everything that I'm doing now. So, okay. So the other cool thing, and the reason why I want them both on the podcast together is we're all on the USTA Midwest Wheelchair Tennis Board. And what we try to do is just spread the wheelchair tennis awareness all around the Midwest. And, I would argue that we have one of the biggest wheelchair tennis communities in the Midwest. Would you guys agree with that?
We're a very active committee. Yeah, the Midwest section supports us a lot in our endeavors and what we do.
Yeah.
And the more we do, the more support we get, the bigger we are. And we have a great group of volunteers, and we couldn't do it without our volunteers.
Yeah. Okay, so let's give start with some easy get to know you type of questions. So, Brian, give us a 10,000-foot overview of who you are. We know that you're involved in wheelchair tennis. By the way, both Lynn and Brian are able-bodied. I think that's worth mentioning as well. So,
sure. I became certified tennis instructor in 1992, and I've been working at Schroeder Tennis Center in Tip City. Head tennis pro there for 29 years.
Wow.
I recently have switched jobs, and now I am working at the Midwest section office as the director of tennis operations in Indianapolis. So that move happened this week.
Congrats.
So I'm still able to be a part of the wheelchair committee and helping out with all the camps. And that's where I'm at now, starting to, I believe the Midwest is the heart of tennis in the U.S. I believe all of our programming, whether it's Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, whatever, we do great things. And I think the rest of the country kind of looks at us, sees what we're doing, and then we're the leaders. We're the leaders of the Midwest or of the USTA.
Yeah, awesome. Lynn?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I've been a teaching pro for probably over 15 years, certified. And, my journey as a recreational therapist is my background. That's my degree. I worked in a rehab hospital for about 20 years, full-time and then part-time. And then my story of wheelchair tennis started while I was a therapist at the hospital. They were running a wheelchair tournament and needed someone to run their desk. And they approached me and said, Lynn, you know tennis. Will you help be our desk person? Just hand out balls, report scores. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything about wheelchair tennis.
Yeah.
And, that weekend, I was there, I helped out and just kind of fell in love with it from that time forward. And then they needed a coach. They didn't have a coach at that time. They said, Lynn, can you feed balls? Can you be our coach? And I'm like, I don't know anything about wheelchair tennis.
Yeah.
I just played college tennis, and they said, we'll teach you. So, the players actually taught me first. And then I was able to attend a few tournaments at the end of the season to meet other coaches. And, my journey through wheelchair tennis began there. As I still was a part-time therapist at the hospital, kind of doing both, and then got into the able-bodied teaching world, teaching at club. And now I'm a high school tennis coach. I'm a club director in the summer at a private club, and I teach indoors. And then my passion on the side is my volunteering through the USTA Midwest section.
Yeah, that's awesome, and we'll get into so much of that in this podcast. So, the next question that I have for you is favorite courts to play or coach on. Brian.
Well, this year playing at the Cincy Open with all the new renovations and remodeling.
Yeah.
I think that was fun having the exhibition with the players, with the wheelchair players, and even the pair standing and the adaptives there.
That was awesome.
The venue is beautiful. So if I had a number one, it would be just this year, the Cincy Open. Maybe that's my 1A. 1B is at Hope.
Yeah.
Because of the camp, because of the kids, because of the energy, the facility there. I mean, that's something I look forward to every year.
Yeah. Hope College in Michigan.
Yes.
Lynn?
I'm going to echo those same things.
Okay.
Hope College is a beautiful facility, 12 outdoor beautiful courts, and since he just redid them, you can't beat that in the Midwest.
It's interesting. So ChatGPT helps me plan these questions, and I read that as favorite courts to play or coach on, and it's open to interpretation. So your answers were great, but I kind of looked at that as clay, hard court, grass, stuff like that. So I am curious, what are your favorite courts to coach on from that regard?
Well, to coach on, I've always coached just on hard.
Yeah.
As far as if you're referring to the wheelchair players, I mean, I've coached on clay.
Yeah.
My favorite surface is grass.
Interesting.
I played on grass once.
Okay.
I loved it. I loved
Okay.
it. So yeah, it was so fun to play on.
Interesting. Lynn?
I've only taught on hard courts. That's all I can say.
Okay.
I would love the chance. My dream would be to go to the 4 major Grand Slams and walk out on the courts.
Yeah.
Try them all.
I've played. I haven't coached on any surface other than hardcore, but I've played on clay, and I've also played on. It wasn't like true grass. It was like this fake grass, and it was weird. But it had these like little like almost styrofoam or foam ball, like just tiny little balls. And that was a neat experience. And the lines are lifted a little bit, so if the ball hit the line, it would kind of like bounce a little funky. So clay courts for a wheelchair user, because you're pushing all the time, you get really dirty. Your shirt gets dirty, your hands get dirty, everything. So anyway, if you weren't in tennis, what random job would you want?
Go ahead, Lynn.
Great.
Putting Lynn on the spot.
Oh boy. If I wasn't in tennis, probably teaching of some sort.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a little bit of a police background too, so I kind of like to be a little bit in charge.
Okay. I can't tell.
You can't tell. I have a loud voice at times. I need to turn it down. But teaching of some sort, even if it would be a classroom, with students of some sort, whether it's tennis or not, I think I enjoy that.
Yeah, me too. Brian?
Well, I'm going to sound like a 6-year-old, but I would absolutely be a fireman.
Oh, okay.
Because I love the idea of helping people, taking care of people, and 100%.
Okay, awesome. All right, so how does being part of the Midwest Committee fuel your momentum, Lynn?
When I got started back with USTA Midwest over 15, 20 years ago, having the people around you that support and are right alongside you makes it so easy
Yeah,
to continue doing what you love to do. Without the support of our staff at the Midwest section that believes in you, and they see it. They see what I love about the Midwest section is we can have ideas and projects. We make them happen, and from start to finish. We have a dream. We make it happen. We go big. Go big or go home. It's kind of like, what? I'm going to push for something exciting to happen. Let's see if we can make it.
yeah,
And then, it keeps going. And we have a core group of great volunteers around us on our committees. Having volunteers from each of the 5 states on our committee, you can start growing into each one of those states. And, I'm in Michigan. I can't be in all 5 states. That's why we have Brian in Ohio and you guys and someone in Wisconsin and Indiana and Illinois. And it just, you know, it starts spreading like wildfire. You just spread it into the areas and it just keeps growing. And then you see the fruits of what you do. And for me, it's so rewarding.
yeah, absolutely, Brian.
Well, our committee is so strong, and the growth that we're able to achieve and we've been able to achieve over the past 10 years, where areas that didn't have programs now do have programs. I'm a big fan of, what is wheelchair tennis? What do we want? We want awareness. But we want players to be active, whether it's the juniors, the adults. So again, we are so strong as a committee, and we just you're looking forward to our monthly Zooms. What's the next program? What's the next camp coming up? What's our next tournament coming up?
Yeah.
Okay, and just we're very successful.
I like that. Okay, so another fun question. What's the funniest or craziest thing that's ever happened at a camp? Who wants to start? It doesn't. Dealer's choice.
I'll start. It was funny to me. Well, can I tell 2 stories?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Matthias will love the one where he likes to flip over on his chair and do push-ups.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to impress a cute girl there or something. I always find that to be hilarious, and I request that he does that.
Yeah.
But one time, and it wasn't at a camp, it was working with Hunter Heck, and we're playing and hitting. He's working hard, and one of his chairs pops off.
His wheels?
One of his wheels pop off. And, he's got his racket in one hand. He's got the wheel in the other, but he's still hitting, and I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Lynn?
A little tradition at our Hope College camp is it's silly, but we do this fruit roll-up game at the end. I don't even know how I started. I think I saw it online somewhere of funny, intro games for kids at camps. And, they have to put their hands behind their back, then they have to take this fruit roll up and they have to try to eat it as quick as they can. And they have to hang it down and, they're trying to balance. And, I think Matthias wins every year.
Yeah.
But it's just so fun to see all the kids get in it. And then they ask every year, are we going to do that game? It's a silly game. I think every year I want to change it and do a different one.
Yeah.
But when I have the kids go, are we going to do it again?
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't change it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's fun.
Okay, so my story that I have, this isn't necessarily a coaching story, but when I was playing in Europe, you know how I have that kind of like that slice kick serve that jumps to the side. Well, I swung up on the racket, and by the way, there's an umpire off to my left. I think I'm serving on the deuce side, and I serve it, and I frame the heck out of the ball, and it goes in within inches of the umpire. And then the other thing, this was on clay courts. The same match, for some reason, it was just things were happening in this match. But they use these almost these nets to smooth out the courts, if you will. And so I was going for a ball, and there was a net that was right there, and it was pretty off the court, so it shouldn't have been in my way, but I was able to get the ball, and I rolled over this net, and my wheels got stuck in it. And so I don't even remember if I won that point, but I do remember like frantically trying to get out to recover so that I could
Right.
get the next ball. But yeah, those are two of my stories. So any others that you can think of? I'm sure there's a lot. I was trying to think of, like, before the podcast, a specific coaching story that I have. Other than Elliot told this story on the podcast earlier, there was a kid that was having a tough time, just mentally. You guys know the kid. I try not to say kids' names on here, but he's a Cincinnati guy, no longer plays wheelchair tennis, but he was just mentally out of it, and there was nobody else on the court, and I was like, all right, guys. I just want everybody to yell as loud as they can, and so I tried to, like, get him to release that aggression or that anger or whatever, and it like he as soon as he yelled, everybody else did too, and it was just a goofy thing that kind of helped relieve that tension that he had. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything else? I can move on to the next question if you don't. All right. So, podcast question: what keeps you rolling forward? Brian, we'll start with you.
Well, Lynn Bender keeps me rolling forward.
Yeah.
Zach, you keep me rolling forward.
Awesome.
The energy of the committee, like I spoke about earlier, and our programming and what we do in the Midwest, it's fun.
Yeah.
What's next? What program is successful? And looking forward to the kids, the camp we're doing today. Being at the facility over at the Cincy Open.
Mm-hmm.
How could you not, look forward to that? And again, what's next? What's new? What programs we're going to keep rolling with, or what new programs can we come up with? Those are always energy builders for me.
Mm-hmm. Lynn?
Yeah, I look ahead to the future, and I think, where have we come from? What things worked in the past, what didn't? What new hotbeds in the Midwest section don't have that fire yet? Where can we grow programs that are stagnant? Maybe they used to have programs. It's exciting when people call the Midwest section, and they're new. Maybe it's a new club owner, a club director that got hired, a new pro that is like, I want to try this. I want to start a program. And we get those emails and those phone calls that get funneled down to me and say, okay, Lynn, here's the next project for your committee. Go with it. And it's always the new people that are in the industry, in the tennis industry, coming out of college, or, they're just, we want to do something new at our club. And the excitement when we go into new cities as a committee and train new staff, new volunteers, you just see the excitement in them over and over. And for me, that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the people that are growing, that already have established programs, they're running with it. They're doing great. But it's those new people where you just light that next fire all around, and you see it, and then you see it come to fruition, and you just see more players coming out of it. And, it keeps it fresh. It keeps it going.
Yeah, I love that. You guys both mentioned had basically tennis in your answers, which of course that's one of the things that keeps me rolling forward. What about outside of tennis, Brian?
Well, outside of tennis, there's not much.
I'm
we're
glad
so
you went first.
Yeah, right.
we're so engaged and activated,
Yeah.
whether it's wheelchair
Yeah.
or just other AB programs.
Mhm.
I want to touch base a little bit on your answer.
AB, just to clarify, AB is able-bodied,
Able-bodied,
for those that don't know.
So with the question you asked, I had a phone call yesterday with the individual that is involved with the program, and it was a good hour conversation about how can we grow that particular program.
Yeah.
And the energy again, and okay, this is what we can do, this is what our program's going to be like, and this is how we're going to make it grow. And this is a person I hadn't spoken to in a long time, and when I hang up the phone, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, when are we going to start? How can we get going? How many days?
Yeah.
And so those are the things that keep us going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and Lynn, just to kind of give you an idea, I mean, you have Kurt, you have kids, so I imagine that's part of what keeps you rolling forward.
Yeah. People ask me that question all the time, like, Lynn, what do you do besides play tennis or coach tennis? And, sometimes I have to think, I'm like, but everything I do, maybe it's evolved around tennis, but it's in a different way. Whether I'm coaching at a club, whether I'm coaching outdoors, whether I'm coaching wheelchair or an adaptive, or watching my college son play tennis at one of his matches. I'm the tennis mom in the stands, watching him play. For years watching Kurt play tennis, and I was the wife and the coach, and he was the athlete, and we'd travel the country because he was playing competitive tennis on the circuit, whether we watch tennis on TV at home, we have Tennis Channel on and we're watching tennis, talking tennis. And, I have so many lady friends that play tennis and, our travel team tennis, everything. But that's what we love to do, but everything is just a little bit different. You find your little niche of, who you talk to. And I mean, that's what brings me joy. And that's what I feel my gifts are, is tennis, but impacting so many different people's lives, whether it's just, whether it's wheelchair tennis community or the able-bodied community.
Yeah.
That's my calling. It's where I want to be. It's what I love to do.
I love it. One of the things that I think about a lot, and this is not necessarily one of the questions that I've planned, but it's purpose, right? And one of the things that I've been realizing since I've been back into the tennis world is how much purpose it really gives me. And it's interesting. Like, you hear growing up and college, it's like, find your purpose, find your passion. And like, if you don't have that, it almost rings hollow. And so one of the goals that I'd like to have on this podcast is to help people get advice on how to maybe find that purpose. And so I'm curious, from your guys' standpoint, it seems like both of you kind of almost fell into this passion and purpose. If someone doesn't have that, do you have any thoughts on how someone could? Brian?
Well, excuse me. Meeting Lynn 11 years ago, I had no idea wheelchair tennis really existed. And so that created a pathway for me, a new purpose for me. It opened up my eyes to a whole nother world that I embraced.
Yeah.
And I wasn't necessarily looking for that.
Yeah.
I was very set in my ways as a tennis instructor.
Yeah.
And so, for somebody that doesn't quite know, don't panic. Don't think, well, there's nothing right in front of me. Find things you like, find things you're passionate about. And there's so many different doors that are available.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, this wheelchair world for me, as an instructor, as a mentor, as a friend, and the community that I'm able to be in touch with now, I had no idea existed.
Yeah.
I didn't start tennis, 30 years ago thinking, what's wheelchair tennis going to be for me? That path I didn't know existed. So the path is out there, and there might be multiple paths for you.
Yeah.
You just don't know it yet.
Right.
And you just have to find little bits and pieces that you're happy with, and try to get involved.
Yeah.
And if it's something you're happy with, continue. If it's something that you're like, well, I'm not so sure this is it, find something else.
Yeah.
And then you'll come across mentors and leaders that will invite you to be a part of something they're involved with. And you're like, wow, this is great.
I love that. And one of the things that I always say is, just being born with a disability, spina bifida, I think I've impacted more people being disabled than I ever would have being able-bodied, and if it wasn't for me being in a wheelchair, I probably wouldn't be coaching wheelchair, adaptive, blind and visually impaired tennis. And it's just opened different doors for me. And it's interesting. So Lynn, what would you say about purpose?
Well, I'm going to add on to what Brian said first, because, one thing when he said, years ago when I tried to get him on the committee right away, he fought and fought, and he was
We know I didn't like you.
I know. I'm going to go
We
there.
know this. We
I'm
know
going to
this.
go there because I saw something in him like he would be great for the committee.
Yeah.
You know, there was just something about, you know, he was a tennis pro, and he's like, I'm set in my ways. I remember him saying that. I'm very content. And I think I had to beg you, you know, you were pulling and fighting to like, you know, I'm content in my job and my career. I don't need this. And I just said, try it. I said, just give me like a year, just try it.
Yeah.
And he did. And, you know, he stuck with it for a few years. And I remember Brian coming to me going, you know, Lynn, I don't think I'm meant for this committee. I don't think it's worth my time. And, you know, and I was sad because I mean, I knew this was a great guy to add to our Midwest. And I remember Brian saying to me like, but I don't have a local program.
Yeah.
I don't have a big, you know, and I sometimes feeling like to be involved in wheelchair tennis doesn't mean you have to like have 10, 15, 20 players to be successful to have a program. And I think that's one thing where Brian was like, I just have one player, or right now I don't have any players. What good am I to the committee? What can I do? And, you know, pulling and fighting, I was just like, you can help Ohio. You're from Ohio. I'm not there. I need you to grow Ohio to be amazing. And, you know, there's like 3 programs now in Ohio, and you met Zach, and, you know, we have other clubs out there. And, you know, finding your purpose of, although he doesn't have a local program, the impact that he has by teaching and coaching and educating and being involved. So,
you know, I questioned that path I was on.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation that we had, I remember I said, Lynn, there's someone else out there that can do a better job than me. And that conversation that lasted several days. It was several phone calls. And I can't be more grateful that those conversations happened because I'm still here.
Yeah.
And so sometimes your purpose, you might question your purpose.
Yeah.
But then that's why you surround yourself with good mentors that can say, hey, listen, I've got your back. Lynn had my back, and I'm still here, and we're doing great things.
Right.
Yeah.
Not just because you are in charge of a local program. You can be an educator, a teacher, an on-court tennis professional, leading camps, trainings, right? We need a little bit of everything.
And I don't think I had met you yet.
Yeah.
For that conversation.
Right.
So, look what door that opened up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gave him a second chance.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's awesome. You know, it's interesting too, is since I've been involved in Cincinnati Tennis Foundation, if you asked me 10 years ago if I'd want to be coaching adaptive, non-wheelchair or blind and visually impaired tennis, I would have said, heck no. But a similar thing to Lynn talking to you, Brian, happened to me. Is Nikki came to me and was like, hey, we need somebody to do this. We don't have anybody else. Can you please just do it until we find somebody? And I'm like, yeah, sure, fine. I'll do it. And I did it, and it's just like I fell in love with it. Like the passion on those kids' faces is just almost exponential compared to the passion that like able-bodied players have. You know, and it's so gratifying seeing just the improvement and the smiles on the kids' faces and all that. So
yeah, if you would have asked me 25 years ago, you know, did I ever see myself in wheelchair tennis? I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah,
you know, just as an able-bodied player, minding my own business, working in a hospital, you know, just love tennis as an adult. I mean, I never would have thought, you know, the opportunities that I've been given because of this platform, because of being able to do what I do. The past 25 years, I've met so many people across the country and internationally. I've been able to travel through ITF camps and lead clinics and camps internationally because of my passion and wanting to see more people play. You know, and it's just, I just love seeing, you know, the passion on the kids and being able to get more kids playing.
Now I'm curious because I don't know the timeline here. You're obviously married to a guy in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I kind of expected you to say like, oh yeah, he found wheelchair tennis, or you guys found it together, but it sounds like you might have found it before you guys met.
Yeah. So you want the story?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So so he Kurt had been in a chair for 10 years prior to me, you know, even meeting him. And we met at that tournament.
Yeah.
And he was on the board. He had been playing wheelchair tennis for years already. So, when I came and helped run this tournament, when they needed a coach, I signed on to help, and he was one of the players as well. And so that was kind of our story, where he was the player, I was the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then, can I stay on? And
Yeah.
I wanted some private lessons. So of course the
Nice.
coach had to help with some private lessons. And, we traveled with a team. We were able to travel the country, and he proposed on the tennis court.
Aw.
I mean, so, it's where we met at the club. The club was involved behind it. They knew what was going on. So yeah, I mean, getting proposed on the tennis court, that was where we met,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah. And, and then now we have a son. He's almost 22 years old. And, yeah, we traveled when he was 5 months old to his first tournament. 5 months. We went to the St. Louis tournament
Mm-hmm.
and, traveled with him. So, Jaden has traveled with us for years, just being a part of that community. And it's fun seeing people go, I remember when he was just a baby.
Yeah.
And now he's going to graduate college.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Fun.
That is. All right. Go ahead, Brian. You look like you have something to add.
We're good.
No? Okay. All right. So one of the things that I do is I like to get a little serious, and then I like to get a little bit more light. So I do a segment, and it is time for the wheelie bad joke segment. So here's how it works. You guys are gonna you guys are gonna hear one of my dad jokes, and I want you to rate it. Now, you have the option after you rate it to tell me a dad joke back. If you don't have one, that's completely okay. We can move on. But here it is. And I want to preface it by saying I do not have a wife, and this is about that. So,
Okay.
so the joke is, my wife said she has 14 reasons why she could leave me, including my obsession with tennis. I said, that's 15, love.
Oh.
Good one, Zach. Good one.
I wanted it to be tennis related.
It is.
And
You went there.
It is. Yep. 15 love is a tennis score.
That
for those
is.
that don't know the joke, but all right. So now I want you guys to rate it. You won't hurt my feelings if you get me a -1.
4.
4. Okay.
I'm giving you an 8.5.
Oh wow!
I like it.
You like dad jokes apparently better than Lynn.
Bad dad jokes.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Do you guys have a dad joke that you'd want to share?
No.
I do not.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. All right, let's get into the adaptive sports involvement, and some of these questions might be duplicative. So if they are, let me know. Brian, we'll start with you. Being an able-bodied guy, and you have Hunter Heck. What inspired you to care so much about this space?
Well, the phone call, the history behind the Hecks reaching out to me and starting with Hunter, it was a simple phone call from Hunter's mom, Haley. Would I be happy to work with Hunter? He was looking for a sport to pick after his accident.
Mhm.
And getting on the court with Hunter, we developed an immediate friendship.
Yeah.
And then we both developed a love for the sport.
Yeah.
For me, it was about learning a sport that I really didn't know. I knew
Mhm.
tennis, but I did not know wheelchair tennis.
Yeah.
And he went about 6 to 7 weeks in his non-sports chair, his everyday chair.
Yeah.
And so developing his skills and developing my knowledge of the wheelchair sport,
Mhm.
wheelchair tennis, it just grew. He got his sports chair, and then we set some goals. Our first event together, and that's when I met Lynn.
Mhm.
And then that's when everything just really opened up in my eyes when it came to wheelchair tennis.
Yeah.
And then it just grew from there, from the committee, developing programs, spending time with Lynn, doing the camps,
Mhm.
doing more workshops, more seminars.
Mm.
And, Yeah, it's full steam ahead,
Yeah.
as we spoke of earlier.
Yeah, I like it. Lynn, you kind of shared your story already, but anything to add to that as far as what inspired you?
Yeah, I just to see the progressions. And for me, even the non-disabled community knows that I'm involved in it
Mm.
back home in my hometown of Holland, Michigan. And they all know that I do something with wheelchair tennis. And when I talk about it and share about it, to me, it's just education and awareness of I coach so many able-bodied people, and they're like, wow, you do this. Tell me more. Tell me more about it. Or if I need extra volunteers at my camp, a lot of my ladies that I teach, let me jump in. Let me help serve food at the camp. Let me volunteer. How can I donate? What can I do to be involved? Because they know that I care about it so much and I'm passionate about it that it makes them want to be a part of what I do and learn more. And
Yeah.
for me, it just opens up any conversation that I can have with someone to teach them more about it.
Mm.
It's just one more person that we're educating that didn't know about wheelchair tennis. And even most recently, I had a few ladies. It was shown at the U.S. Open, right? The wheelchair event, and I had some of my friends back home, and they're texting me. I just saw the wheelchair players on the U.S. Open. Did you see it?
Yeah.
I saw it for the first, and they're seeing it for the first time,
Mhm.
watching the U.S. Open and seeing it, and they never would have probably thought about it before, but because they know I'm involved, they're like, "Wow,
Yeah.
that was amazing." And it's like one more person has learned about it, and that's just my goal is to get as many people to understand what tennis is tennis, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're in a chair or standing up. I mean, I love being able to see wheelchair athletes play in able-bodied leagues, play USTA league tennis. And we have quite a few in the Midwest that have played or currently playing. I love to see high school kids playing on their high school teams integrated. I love hosting run roll events. And that's one of my goals. I would love, Brian, we'll talk about this later, but to do more run roll, more integration,
Yeah.
make them fun, make them social.
Mhm.
People don't always have the time to commit all weekend long, but do a Friday night run roll, with your local tennis players, high school, college kids. And tennis is tennis. They just want to have fun, socialize.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, tennis is pretty cool. I played on my middle school and high school able-bodied tennis team. As far as the rule difference, it's 2 bounces. Wheelchairs get 2 bounces. It was funny because if my doubles partner whiffed the ball on 1 bounce, I could still get it on 2,
Right.
and that's fair game. It's USTA rules, so which that's part of the rules for wheelchair tennis. But yeah, so one of the just funny questions that I just thought of. You two are able-bodied. I keep saying that, but if you guys played a match in wheelchairs, who would win?
ooh.
If I played against Lynn,
Yeah.
I would dominate
Oh, wait.
without a doubt.
Wait.
I've played in the chair. She's my topspin forehand, Lynn.
Oh, no.
It would be miserable for you.
My drop shots, you would not even get to it. You don't know how to push that well.
Nice try, Lynn. You're
Okay.
losing.
Well, it remains
We-
to be seen. Maybe we'll do
Game on.
yeah. Maybe at some point we'll do a rolling forward podcast follow up and show you guys both playing in wheelchairs and see who wins.
I'll bring my trophy.
Yeah. I've really only seen you guys coach, so I've not really seen your wheelchair tennis skills. So
Right.
I'd
Practice
be
up, buddy.
yeah, right. I'd be very curious to see who would win in that. Of course, I could beat you both.
Of course. Not a doubt.
We'll see.
Yeah,
It's that lefty serve, Zach.
yeah, the lefty serve. And yeah, it is the wheelchair tennis is a different game. It's funny. You see new able-bodied people get in a wheelchair and like they'll just like roll on by the ball because they don't they can't use their legs to step over to it, and they don't realize that you have to grab the wheel in order to control it and all that. So not saying that you guys do that.
That's one of the best things about our trainings. If I can just quick add about
go
our
ahead,
trainings is we love to put the new coaches and volunteers in chairs. That's the most educational opportunity. And they want to try it. You know, they look forward. That's like the highlight of our workshops and our trainings is to put, you know, your stud college players in there and your head tennis pros and your hot shots in the chairs and watch them push around. It's entertaining for them, but it's also awareness. And they're like, wow, this is harder than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for us, I mean, that's what you need to do as a new coach. Absolutely. When you're new coaching to the game, get yourself into a chair as much as you can so you can learn to teach from that level.
Well,
Yeah.
Zach, you and I did it at the Cincy Open.
Yeah.
With just the spectators. We have the extra chairs, and Kurt was helping, and we put, you know, whether it's an adult or a youngster in a chair, and they do what we call like the little baby pushes, barely going into it. We're like, no.
Yeah.
And then they want to put the racket on their lap. We're like,
no.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting about that is, oh man, I had a thought. I do get able-bodied people from time to time, and I'm curious if you guys have seen this, that are like, oh, I don't think that's appropriate to get in a wheelchair. Like I don't want to like almost act like I'm disabled. Like I think that they think that people would find that offensive, and I've not met one person in this community that would find that offensive.
Well, do you remember the phone call, the conversation we had about my neighborhood? So I have some chairs at home. And I decided this summer, instead of jogging the neighborhood, I would get in the chair and push my 1 or 2 miles. And I called you after I did it for a week. And I said, Zach, am I crossing a line? Am I inappropriate? And your answer was?
No, absolutely not.
Right.
It's great.
And my neighbors looked at me and they're like, what are you doing? I said, I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to maneuver this chair better.
Yeah.
And my neighbors, they all know I'm active with wheelchair tennis. So they're like, go.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I was glad we had that conversation.
Yeah. No, it's not offensive at all. Okay, so I didn't plan to share this, but I have this hysterical pickup line that I do, and because I can walk, I go up to a person, and now I just do this for like just laughs. But I'll say, hey, I just want to say that looking at you, and then I'll stand up and I'll say it's miraculous. But I'll do.
That's cruel.
But I did that once. I really enjoy. Sometimes I like creating social like awkwardness or just social
humor, humor,
social abnormities. And so I have done that like out in public just to a random girl. And she turned to me and goes, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? You got that wheelchair to try to pick up girls and you're faking right now?
Nice.
How dare you?" And like she just ripped me apart. And I was wearing pants at the time. I'm like, no, look at my legs. They're skinny. I promise I'm disabled and blah blah blah. So I don't know. I don't know why that story just stuck out, but thought you guys would find that funny.
He didn't give you her number?
No,
okay.
No, I
didn't.
didn't. I did not get a number. That was that I probably have done that a couple times to just complete strangers, and it never goes well.
There's a lot of wheelchair humor. We could go down that road with.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, you know, a funny one is even like when my husband tries to open a door at a restaurant, you know, and tries to be a gentleman and open the door for me. And, you know, then other people are like, oh, no, I got this for you, you know, and he's like, no, I'm just trying to be a gentleman, trying to open the door, you know, and it's just, it creates this awkwardness of, you know, he's able to open a door. It's okay. Or I watch him open a door for other people and they stop and they're like, oh no, I got it. I got it. He's like, no, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm doing something nice. And they'll make socially awkward moments of, like, you don't think you can open a door for someone else. Because you're in a chair.
Yeah. That's go ahead. Do you have some?
No, it's the same thing. When I used to hang out with Hunter, and then we would get all the awkward questions and the opening of the doors, and people would come over and just ask questions about why he's in the chair. I'm like, what are you doing? Leave us alone. We're just hanging out as friends. He's in a chair. What's the deal? What's the problem?
Yeah, that's interesting. The opening doors, that's like a theme podcast question that I like to ask because it shows like it's such a small thing, but it shows the dynamic of able-bodied and wheelchairs. And one of the things that I always say is like, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as someone's trying to help, or you can look at it and say, they're being patronizing. They think that I'm less than. They think that I can't do that. And one of the things that I've heard Jake say is like, it's you don't know what someone in a wheelchair's disability is. You don't know if they can. So it's best to assume that they can't so that you can help out if needed. But the awkwardness of someone reaches over your head and tries to open the door, or tries to hold the door open while they give you your their armpit, or like my other favorite one is they'll get in front of me, put their back to the door, and tell me to go through. And if I tried to go through, I'd be running over their feet because their feet are sticking out.
Right.
So it's really fascinating. I've also had like people from like 20 yards away just yell, wait, I got it. And I like social, just social awkwardnesses or social abnormities. And so like if there's an able-bodied person that I'm going to the door at like almost at the same time, I will speed up so that I can open the door for them.
Yeah.
But there's so many awkward situations that stem from that. So, okay. So I didn't expect to talk about that so soon. That's normally later, but that's always a fun conversation to have. What's one story of an athlete that's stuck with you? And you can take this anywhere: a success story, a funny story, whatever you guys want. Who wants to go first? Looks like you both are thinking.
I have a couple different ones.
Okay.
If I think of my journey years ago, I think of an adult player when I was actually still at the rehab hospital, part-time, new into wheelchair tennis. When we took our patients out into the community to come observe like a wheelchair practice as still part of their rehab in the outpatient setting. And to see this individual be able to transfer first, from his everyday chair to a sports chair for his first time, right? And not knowing how to do that as a spinal cord, we walked through it using a sliding board, right? And he's like, I can't do that. But having the mentorship of other athletes around him going, you don't need a sliding board to transfer every single time. This is how we do it. We show you how to do it. He did it the first time because he was nervous, came out again, like with a therapist. And then to see him the next couple times try it without a sliding board, to be able to go into that chair. And it's like progress, little baby steps of progress of how to transfer into that chair, and having the community of, the welcomeness that creates for them of, they're safe in the rehab setting, right? Inpatient, outpatient, that's their safe haven. And now the real world of, and I think being married to a guy in a chair helps me to be able to share life stories, both as a therapist, for those years working with patients. They're like, oh, that's a little different. She does, she can relate a little bit more, and talking about things that we do out in the community, how we are, how he's independent. Yes, he can drive. Yes, he has a job. He's very independent. Yep, he can change light bulbs, things that people are like, oh, he can do that? I'm like, yeah, he can. He just rolls instead of walks. There's not a lot of difference.
Yeah.
So I would say that would be my one example of, the fresh out of rehab, seeing that light shine for them, and then come back and then do it again and get better and get stronger. And instead of, barely strong enough to do a transfer, and a year later, and they're playing and they're hooked and they have new friends. My other story I would share is one of our junior players, Xander Frost, out of Michigan. And, watching him as a junior, multi-sport athlete, played sled hockey, watching him as a 12, 13-year-old coming out, learning tennis for the first time and sticking with it. And he progressed so well that we moved him up to play with the adults when he was, 14, 15 years old. we booted him out of the juniors because we saw potential. We saw that he had something that some other kids don't. And, you talk about different pathways. We can talk about that later. And, watching him mature and come to the adult practices, he played a little bit on his high school teams, and now he's off to Arizona, and now he's playing collegiate wheelchair tennis.
Yeah.
So, I've been around a long time, but enough, many years to watch him grow. And it's like a little bit of satisfaction of, proud of him, proud of him. His parents supported him along that journey, and now he's off at Arizona and now he's playing, so those are kind of my warm, fuzzy stories for me.
That's awesome.
Well, I have two, and one is with Hunter. So Hunter and I had been, working for, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks, and he would come twice a week for an hour, and he maybe had his sports chair for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. We're working hard, and we finish our 1 hour session for the day, and he asked me if I have anybody after him. And usually I would have another lesson, back to back to back as a teaching pro, and I didn't. And I said, why? He goes, this is the first time I've broken a sweat since my injury.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I looked at him, I said, what does that mean? He goes, can we keep training? Can we keep going today?
Yeah.
And I was like, absolutely. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And so for him, he had finally broken that threshold of realizing I can be an athlete in this chair. And that story, that moment will always, stick and fresh in my mind when he said, this is the first time I've broken a sweat.
Yeah.
And it's wheelchair tennis that did it. And so my second is again, another story that just sits in my mind. I will never forget. And it was at Hope College at the kids camp, the 2-day camp. And a young lady, I think she was about 13, a recent amputee. Well, she'd never been in a chair before, let alone a sports chair. And so she's coming down. I meet her mother. Her mother asked me if I can take her down to the courts and get her into one of the chairs. And this young lady is scared to death because she's got her crutches and she's never been in a chair. Well, she's afraid she's going to flip or fall over. And so I take her off to the side. We get her in the sports chair and she's shaking. She's afraid. And she does about 2 or 3 pushes across the court. She turns around and looks at me with the biggest smile on her face, and she was gone.
That's
She's
awesome.
zigzagging, spinning. And that's it.
Yeah.
We got her.
Yeah.
And the smile on her face, 10 seconds later, she was afraid that it was going to be a big crash. And that moment will always stick in my mind. Okay. Just almost a freedom for her. I can be an athlete.
Yeah.
Even though I'm an amputee, I can be an athlete, and I love that moment.
Yeah. Those are some of the best moments. So one of mine is a fairly recent story, and just for anybody listening, you don't have to be hitting and playing tennis full court like you see on TV or whatever. It's really important to adapt it to whatever the kid's capability is. And so we just had our try day. So it's a day where they can try wheelchair tennis, wheelchair pickleball, wheelchair basketball, and sled hockey. And we had this girl in a wheelchair come, and she couldn't hold the racket very well, and it was hard for her to swing. So one of the first things that we try to do is just try to balance the ball on the racket, right? And then you can do it around the world, right? And so when it came to, I always try to incorporate games into the activities, right? So when it came to her hitting the ball, which was a little bit more difficult for her, we put rackets on the ground around her, and we put the ball on the racket and said, all right, your goal is to try to hit just roll the ball off the racket to try to hit it to where it bounces on one of the rackets. And it's things like that some people don't think about, right? That you can adapt it to, as long as they're having fun on the tennis court, we can do anything. There was even a kid at one of my adaptive clinics. It was hot out there. He has Down syndrome, and he just did not want to be there, right? So he was just sitting on the bench, didn't want to get up or anything. And so I encouraged one of the volunteers. I started rolling the ball just on the bench, and he would grab it and then roll it back. And it's just different things like that get them engaged. last one is one of the kids didn't want to hold the racket. And so I was rolling the ball to the kid, and the kid was rolling it back with their hands. And then they were sitting on the ground, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna roll it a lot further away now. How are you gonna be able to get to it? And I was like, you know, it might help if you have this racket. And then I just roll the ball really slowly away from them, and the racket was nearby, and they quickly grabbed the racket and reached out and got it. So we got the racket in this kid's hand, and so those are just baby steps on
Yeah.
how to adapt tennis to everyone.
And I think the progressions in tennis are so important from, it carries over from able-bodied to wheelchair sports, right? And, you could start as simple as blowing bubbles,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
have them hit a bubble that's out in the air to tapping a balloon,
Mm.
right? Then you progress to a balloon and they can volley with a balloon.
Yeah,
And then, maybe they're using the orange ball or the foam orange and green dot. They're using the mini nets. They're using the mini rackets. It's a progression like anyone would use. And you meet them where they're at for
yeah.
their success level.
Mm.
And, they're not gonna be amazing Paralympians on day one. They start, but to watch them from year to year
Mm.
progress and, move that kid that was on that first court this first year, and now they're on that second court the
Yeah.
next year. That's big time.
Yeah.
Like, wow. Sometimes when they don't think that they have improved, and then you're like, yep, they got a little bigger, they got a little stronger. So
Yeah, there's a gnat flying around your face.
He was over here a second ago. I shoot him that way.
yeah.
I saw him.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it landed on your eyebrow.
I
but,
Get away here, buddy.
that's not distracting at all. But okay, yeah, that's awesome. One of the things that I just want to go back to just briefly is the importance of getting people involved in wheelchair tennis, and everybody is capable of doing this. Ian Smith, who was just on my podcast, I was in Cincinnati at like a little festival, and he came up to me and was like, hey, we have a wheelchair basketball team. You want to get started in wheelchair basketball? And I didn't know. I just moved to Cincinnati, and I'm like, whoa, you guys have a wheelchair basketball team? Yeah, I'd love to get involved. And that simple act is just so important to getting people involved. And the other crazy thing, you guys know Jake. I don't know if you know Mozzie.
Yeah.
But both of them were injured fairly young. Mozzie at 3, I think Jake around like 12 or 13. And neither of them got into wheelchair sports until they were like late teens. And so I want to stress the importance of making sure, and that's one of the things that we try to do in the Midwest is getting people involved. It doesn't even have to be tennis. Like get them involved in wheelchair sports because it's such an impactful thing for them to do. Like Hunter's saying, this is the first time since my injury that I've worked up a sweat, and it's like it's critical. So
Yeah, and I would say that's why we start our camps at age like 6.
yeah,
I'll take him young. I'll put the 6 to 8-year-olds on a court together because that's their friend group.
Yeah.
That's their social. That's their peers, and they might see each other. Whether it's other sports, whether it's not tennis and basketball or softball or whatever they're doing, they're still going to see each other for several years through their journey at other events too. So be it. We are in the tennis community,
yeah,
but absolutely, and if people can cross train and play 2 sports, 3 sports, have at it. We all did as kids. I was a 3-sport athlete. Who wouldn't want to
pull that closer.
compete and play?
There you go.
And I think even in the off season, if the tennis season and tournaments, once a kid gets to that level of competing on a circuit from, April through September, October, and then they go into basketball, that's great. Keep your bodies healthy, keep yourself strong.
Yeah.
Versus like one sport only.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to play 2 sports?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think we want the kids playing tennis, right?
Yeah.
However, what you just said, if they can play all these sports, they're going to continue to play tennis
Yeah.
for their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
The other sports, same. But I think we want them to be active and be around their peers. And if they do, a couple weeks with us and a couple weeks with the sled hockey, the basketball, we've got them on the court. We got them being active. That's, I think, the ultimate goal. Of
Yeah.
course, we want them doing more tennis. However,
Yeah.
but if they can have all these other sports, then I think for us and the big picture for us, the wheelchair athletes, that's what we want.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say as the kids get older, I mean, the one benefit to wheelchair tennis, it's one of the only wheelchair sports where you can play and compete with able-bodied.
Yeah.
And you don't need 5 or 10 players in chairs to go compete on a team.
Yeah.
You know, and I know, the team aspects have their strengths as well. Yep, the basketball team, sled hockey, and that's great also. But, for wheelchair tennis, you only need one other person to go play with you. You don't
Yeah.
need 5 or 10 people in chairs. You can go play with your best friend, play with your parents, play with your neighbor, play on a high school team. And it's the most easily integrated sport
Yeah.
to be in with your able-bodied peers. And
Yeah.
to me, that's the huge incentive. And it's a lifelong sport. You
Mhm.
can play tennis for years to come.
Yes.
There it is again.
Lifelong.
that we gotta we gotta get that. Anyway, Brian,
Send it my way.
He's coming
Yeah.
by you.
what were you gonna say? Sorry.
Well, the lifelong sport, and I think that tennis is one of those sports, like you said, that you don't need an entire team to
Yeah.
play. So you can
Mhm.
grab a friend, you can hit with an able-bodied person, and there's tennis courts everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, so the next question is an interesting one. What's a misconception you wish people would drop about adaptive sports? Before I have you guys answer, I want to tell you. So I planned this using ChatGPT, and I told basically I say, hey, this is who I'm having on. This is how I know the people. This is what I know about the people that I'm having on. And I mentioned that your husband is in a wheelchair. And I of course I wanted ChatGPT to create questions about that dynamic and maybe what it's like and stuff like that. And one of the questions that I'm not going to ask is the ChatGPT thought of was a boundary you've learned to set so you can sustain the work and the caregiving. And ChatGPT assumed that you're caregiving for Kurt.
Hmm.
And I was just like, that is a misconception. Even ChatGPT thought that
Right.
you're Kurt's caregiver. I have a housemate. It's my house. I rent out the lower level, and my neighbors think that that he's caregiving for me.
Right.
And it's like, no, I'm independent. Kurt's independent, and it's like that's a common misconception that a lot of people think that everybody needs a caregiver and
Right.
all that. So anyway,
So misconception.
misconception.
I will say one thing that is frustrating is the terminology. Sometimes that the general public uses. They tend to refer to our athletes as they're wheelchair bound, which just sends like fingers on a chalkboard to me. They are not bound to their wheelchairs. Wheelchair bound. They are not bound by ropes, in their chair. And it's frustrating with media and news when they share stories out there, and you've got your press articles and your news reporters that are saying, "Oh, these wheelchair bound players, wheelchair bound athletes," and it's like, oh, they're people first. You use people first language.
Yeah.
Kurt just happens to use a chair. It is, the person, it is Zach who happens to be in a chair. It is not, wheelchair player Zach. It is Zach first. So, just using the right terminology versus the inspiration side. They just want to be treated as individuals who happen to play sports or tennis in a chair.
Yeah.
It's tennis is tennis. That's,
Yeah.
they just happen to, but when people are new and they see it on the news, and that's such an inspiration.
Yeah.
We have two pathways. You have your recreational and your competitive pathway, and there's a pathway for everyone. They just want to play sports like you and I would.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
but
I have a hot take on your individual with a disability, which is the politically correct way. But before I do that, I'll let Brian answer the question.
Well, my answer is very similar to Lynn's. So when we do our exhibitions at the Cincy Open, or we did the camp where you and the members from the UC team came, and then the club members walk by and they spectate, and then and again, I don't know what the right term is or the verbiage, but they always come up to me afterwards and say, "They're so amazing."
Yeah.
I'm like, what? They're playing tennis. They're in a chair. I mean, and I think they're just trying to say the right thing.
Right.
But I'm like, there's nothing different.
Yeah.
It's a chair.
Yeah.
Besides that, we're all playing tennis.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, you're so amazing.
But that's our door to open the opportunity to educate right there. Those conversations, immediately we can open and have a dialogue with them and educate them right there, which is great.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that? I'll flip the question with a question. How do you feel like if you're being told you're so amazing because you play tennis in a chair?
Whoa. Who's asking the questions here? But no, I'm kidding. You guys can ask as many questions to me as you want. So there's a TED Talk, and this is actually a very common question that I like to get into is inspiration, especially with other people in wheelchairs. There's a TED Talk, a lady in an electric wheelchair. It's called "I'm Not Your Inspiration, Thank You Very Much," and I agree with the sentiment to an extent, but here's the caveat. Anytime someone says that to me, I will bounce back and say something like, "Great, how are you going to improve your own life with that in mind?" So if I'm somebody's inspiration and they look at me and they're like, "Oh man, like that guy's disabled. What's my excuse?" And then they take action and do something with their life, I don't like it, but I'm good with it. Like I'll be your inspiration, sure, but change your life. Don't just get the feels, forget about it, and then move on, right?
Right.
It is patronizing too in a way. Like I worked in the retail space all the time, and I'd get customers so much that would be like, "It's great that they let an employee in a wheelchair work here."
Yeah.
And like I don't want to be working with a company that wants that that diversity quota, right? That's filling that.
Right.
I want to be the best person for the job, not because you're hiring me because I'm disabled. And so, anyway, I look at those kinds of things, and as far as inspiration goes, like, yeah, I mean, it's not the greatest thing, but like, the other thing is it depends on what I've done.
Right.
Like, I was the #1 junior in the US, #2 in the world when I was an 18 and under. And if somebody wants to be inspired by that, that's maybe something that should be aspired to, right?
But then, like you said, flip it back to them and say, wow, how can that, what you just said, motivate you to be a better person or to do something different?
Yeah.
It's almost like flipping it back.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good answer, Zach.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. I've thought about this a little bit. You're the first person that's ever asked me about that too. So no. It's actually probably one of the first times that I've gotten to talk about it on the podcast. So as much as this, but So I want to go back to the individuals with disabilities thing. I'm not a horribly politically correct person, and I feel like one of the things that happens in society is these words get changed all the time. They become offensive, and now we have to think of a new word. And like, quite frankly, like individual with a disability is a mouthful. Like I realize I'm disabled, and if you call me, hey, that disabled guy over there, like I'm okay with that. I haven't really dove into this with other people in wheelchairs, but like, it was funny because like in high school, I used to let my good friends, they'd call me a cripple because it was just funny seeing the reaction with everybody else. I'd even call myself a cripple. So there's this one girl that was like, "I don't think you're a cripple." And I'm like, okay, maybe get your eyes checked. I don't know. Like a cripple is designated to society as like, this is a bad word, and like words only have power if you give them power. So like I've said this before, and if somebody ever called me a cripple on the street, like a random stranger, I'd laugh. Like it's like it means nothing
Right.
to me that a complete stranger is trying to degrade me in whatever way. So
Yeah.
I don't, do you guys have any thoughts around that?
I think every person's going to be different
Yeah.
on that one,
Yeah.
of how they respond and, in their backgrounds and their degrees and their
Sure.
job settings of how politically correct you have to be with terminology and
Right.
in the healthcare system too, documentation, how you word things. But, I think when you're with your own peers and your own friends, it allows for a little room to wiggle
Yes.
with how you communicate with your own friends and what you're okay with. And like
Yes.
you said, I mean, it doesn't offend you,
Mhm.
with a friends. And I think you just have to know your boundaries
Of course.
of who you're with and use common sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody should go out. Oh, they've got a best friend in a wheelchair and
Right.
call him a cripple, right? Like
Right.
that was like they asked for permission
Yeah.
and made sure that that was okay with me before they even did. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I just tell people, I said, they're in a chair, they're a human being.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's
Yeah.
go.
yeah,
I don't see, I don't see the chair,
yeah,
from that perspective.
Yeah.
That's, you're an athlete,
Mhm.
we're in the tennis world. So we see you hitting the tennis ball,
Mm.
at any level that you are, and let's move
Mhm.
on. So
yeah,
And I think
Yeah.
when we teach tennis, tennis is tennis, but you're also, some of the key differences when we're on court and we're educating people. Yep, we use a one-handed backhand in wheelchair tennis. We don't use two. You can't move laterally. We move in figure eights.
Mm.
You don't have lack of racket preparation, right? You don't have time to take your hand off the wheel. You got to keep your hands on the wheel as long as you can. Shorten your backswing. I mean, there's things, that you educate people on about the differences in wheelchair tennis and tennis, and that's where our trainings come in
Yeah.
handy. You're teaching your able-bodied community how to teach wheelchair tennis, and once you get by the 2 bounce rule versus the 1 bounce, some of the basic commonalities that they have in common and the differences, then you're just out there teaching. Once you go through that, you're good to go. Tennis is tennis. You're teaching topspin. You're teaching slice. You're teaching serves. You're teaching follow through. But yeah, there's a few basic common steps, but then tennis is tennis.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question, what lessons do you hope athletes carry with them beyond tennis? Brian?
well, I always want players to, have strong character, be respectful.
Mm.
I think it's a great compliment as a tennis instructor when I see somebody that I've taught, they start teaching,
Mm.
they start becoming a mentor, they
Mhm.
start guiding,
Mhm.
whether it's on the tennis court
Mhm.
or I see them reaching out to help someone that, needs that guidance, needs that support, whether it's on court or off court.
Mhm.
Then I feel like, okay, their character, is moving in a good direction. It's in a great spot.
Mhm.
And then maybe something that I taught them or showed them
Yeah.
helped guide them to improve their character.
Mm.
And then you almost feel like, good,
Yeah.
they've moved on.
Yeah.
I've done something right for them. Can I continue that? I must be doing something right because look how they're leading this young player.
Right.
Okay. Or maybe one of their peers.
Right.
And I feel like, wow, I've done my job
Yeah.
because it's come full circle.
Yeah. Lynn?
I'd say, now uh, after working with the local players, for years, and now some of them have retired, some of them have moved on. Age wise, they don't compete like they used to when I was coaching. To see the friendships evolve beyond the court, not just at practice. We come, for your 2 hours once a week. When I was coaching, you get in your car and you go home, but that community started, hey, let's go out and grab a bite to eat afterwards. Let's go grab dinner. Let's go out for ice cream. Hey, um, let's go to your cottage this weekend. Let's go up and have a girls' night and for a couple nights. And then even within just our group, but it expands to the Midwest.
Mhm.
I'll throw out the women, for example, that competed on tour. the Midwest, even women would become friends and say, "Hey, we're going to Florida. We're going to go to your house. We're going to have a girls' weekend." And because of tennis, just like, for any one of us to compete and go out for a tournament with your team, this was their community, and to see them still to this day get together socially, and even if they're not playing tennis anymore on the circuit, they're getting out, they're hanging out together, they're going out to concerts together, they're going out for dinner. Hey, let's meet up, once a month. Let's go to your cottage and hang out for the weekend or for the day and have girls' day and catch up. And it
Yeah.
was all because of tennis 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago
Mhm.
that you're still friends and you met people with similar disabilities that you can share and laugh about funny stories with your own group. And to me, I like to see that come full circle. When they started out as that new player, they didn't know anyone, but the one friend took them under their wing and kind of came alongside them through their journey. And now friendships across the section, across the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's awesome. One of mine is independence. I think that's so critical. Like obviously I'm independent and I want to make sure that the kids grow up to be as independent as possible. There's a lot of people on Social Security disability that maybe don't need to be, that could get a job outside of that, and maybe haven't been taught the right tools and resources or shown the resources to be able to do that. So, yeah, the independence is probably my biggest one. And I will say one of the other cool things that we do, and this is a common thing I think at some able-bodied camps too, is we introduce a word, a life word, and then we ask them hey, how did you exude, or how did you practice this today, or how can you practice this outside of tennis and all that. So, yeah, it goes beyond, it goes well beyond tennis, and I love that. Um, okay, so the next question. USTA Midwest Wheelchair Tennis Committee. Let's talk about that a little bit. We are all on the committee. Lynn, you are leading the charge with that committee. What are some of the accomplishments that we've had on the committee, would you say, Lynn? You can
sure.
take that anywhere.
Yeah. The USTA Midwest Committee, every committee member serves 2-year terms. So it's a 2-year commitment, and then you can reapply to be on the committee. Our goal is to try to get as many people represented on the committee from each of the 5 states that we serve on the Midwest Committee. And is to grow and promote wheelchair tennis within our Midwest section is our goal, whether it's through tournaments, hosting USTA Midwest tournaments within our section, giving opportunities for play and to compete to get ranking points, whether they're USTA or ITF. We want to grow opportunities for camps for kids and adults to give maybe new players an opportunity for a camp, to give little kids more than one opportunity, per year to go to a camp, right? To offer education and training, opportunities for us to be able as leaders to go within the section and go into different clubs and educate so they can start new programs. So starting the growth of new programs. And when we do that, we typically want to follow it. Once we do a training, is they need to start it with a wheelchair or an adaptive program of some sort. And offer grants and scholarships.
Yeah.
Funding is also key. A lot of our athletes struggle with funding if they're not associated with an organization that has financial assistance to help them. That's our job as the Midwest section. We can't get more people out there if we don't have funding. And our Midwest is amazing at giving us scholarship money to be able to have people apply, to be able to attend a camp, to attend a tournament. And maybe they've worked hard. We can help give them financial assistance to fly to a bigger tournament, a national tournament, to put our kids out there across the country where, they need the extra assistance. So, yeah, grants, scholarships, camps, clinics, programs, And individual grants as well as program grants is key for our section. And our committee votes on them as a committee. They simply apply online. They can go to our website, our Facebook page, USTA Midwest Wheelchair Tennis, and they can apply. Maybe it's an individual who we identify as someone who wants to really take their game to the next level, and they want to have private lessons with a coach or indoor court time at a club. Maybe they want to take a lesson in an able-bodied kids green dot class, and there's not a program around them. Maybe they're in an area where, you know what, we just don't have a program that's within an hour driving range. So let's put them into a class at a club.
Yeah.
And let them just integrate right with another kid's class. And then, our job is to maybe help communicate with that club, with that teacher, maybe who's not familiar with wheelchair tennis. And I love those phone calls too, being able to talk to another tennis pro in another state and go, hey, I've got this, 8-year-old boy in a chair that just joined my orange ball class. What do I do? Do you have any tips? I love that, make it successful. So those are kind of, I guess, the basics of what our committee does. And our last thing is promoting it at professional events within our Midwest section. How can we highlight the elite players within our section? Not only the highest level athletes we have, but the Midwest section does a great job of hosting professional WTA and ATP events within our section at different levels. How can we get our players out there so they're visible? So maybe that parent or that grandparent that's sitting in the stands goes, wow, I didn't know this existed. I'm going to, take a picture and show my, grandson, this is out there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I have for it.
Yeah.
We're a busy committee.
Yeah. Brian, she didn't leave much room for you to talk.
Did I miss anything, Brian?
Do you have anything to add?
Wow. Well, that was an amazing answer.
Yeah.
I'm serious. That was. So our committee is a very strong committee. But our committee and what we do in the Midwest, we're a vessel for resource, and you covered everything. Whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, whether you're a club, whether you want to run a new program, tournament, you covered it all. But we are that vessel, and we're a very strong committee. Yeah. We work so hard.
Yeah.
And I think we're excited about our committee. Our committee doesn't get stale, and we're always coming up with new ideas. We have programs that work great, and we don't really have to mess around with a whole lot. We have programs that, okay, we need to clean this up a little bit here or there, but that's why our committee is so strong. So anybody that wants to be involved with wheelchair tennis, again, we're a very strong vessel for any resource you need.
Yeah. Couple questions. One, how many wheelchair tournaments do we have in the Midwest?
You have Grand Rapids.
Yep.
You
Chicago.
Chicago.
Us.
Cincinnati. Yep. Those are the three sanctioned ones by USTA that we currently have on our radar. And we offer 2 camps.
Yep.
Holland, Michigan, and Cincinnati, 2 junior camps. Brian runs a one-day more for a higher level in Ohio as well. And then lots of clinics and one-day camps, education. We also, one thing I'll add too, is our committee, we love to go to workshops where you have a vendor display, a booth at different wheelchair and adaptive sports, workshops, or they have, disability days where we can also have USTA represented at these booths and have all of our information out for education, because even though they're coming through with all different wheelchair sports, if we can be present at as many as possible, and then out of that you might get 1 or 2 new kids.
Yeah,
you might get every one that we can put people at, that we can be at. Put a couple wheelchairs out. Maybe we put a mini net. Maybe it's an indoor and outdoor event. You might get that next couple kids that'll come through, that'll get hooked, and we got to keep growing.
And our train the trainer programs are strong.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Where we go out to clubs that want to start a program, and we'll spend a day with them. Lynn has a great format. She does a great job, even with Jamie on the other adaptive side. So those again are great resources. We'll come out to a club. to a program, and we'll teach coaches, bring in a bunch of volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's another way of educating and getting more programs within the Midwest, within the wheelchair community.
Yeah, I love it. Next question. I'm curious if you guys know the answer because I probably can give you a rough estimate. How many different cities around the Midwest have wheelchair tennis currently?
Well, we have it on our map on our website,
Yeah.
on the USTA Midwest website. Um, there's over 10 programs within the Midwest section. And a program doesn't have to be 10 to 15 players. It can be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
A program has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I always tell, if people are like, well, I only have 2 people coming out. Well, every person in a wheelchair knows another person in a wheelchair.
Mm.
Have a bring a friend day. Have
Yeah.
them invite that next player out. And it just takes 1 or 2 to start, and that's where it just can spread.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think just in Ohio, there's 6 programs running right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dayton, Cincinnati, Cleveland,
Akron,
Akron,
Toledo,
Okay.
Columbus.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's 6.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You guys are rocking it.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. The other question, you mentioned like grants and stuff like that. Do you know the website? If not, I can put it in the description, like how to get to that link.
Yep. So there's two different ways, and I'm going to let Brian talk about his scholarship also. But you have the USTA Midwest website, which is just the USTAMidwest.com. But if you can Google, you can go to wheelchair tennis specifically on the wheelchair page. And we have financial assistance grants, and those are quick turnaround ones. Those are for players or a program in the smaller range, but that can help someone offset costs for hotel or driving or court expenses, anything like that for a local program. Larger foundation ones that will go through the USTA Foundation are for larger grants, maybe for sports chairs, maybe for a program that's requesting a grant to maybe run a large tournament or a camp where there's even more expenses. And those come out like twice a year from the foundation. So if people are planning ahead, the foundation are the large grants. But for individuals, they can do the quick wheelchair financial assistance ones.
Yeah. And this is a good transition because my next question is to tell me about your nonprofits. So, Brian,
Well, I want to touch base. I mean, the USTA has incredible resources.
Yeah.
And the funding is there. It's taking the time to figure out which one suits your program, taking the time to apply for the grant, their scholarship. And I think some people, they just need to reach out if there's links that you can share.
Yeah.
And just, spend a short period of time researching what grant might be best for your program. But it doesn't take long to fill those out, and the resources are there.
Yep.
So I think you're referencing to, as Lynn did. So part of the impact that Hunter Heck and Lynn Bender had on me, 4 years ago, I started the AH Sports Lynn Bender Hunter Heck grant, which the goal was to give $1,000 to a junior player within the Midwest area. All they have to do is apply for it. I think we've given more than $10,000 away.
That's awesome.
Within 4 years. So typically, if I have more than one applicant, they both get it. It's just how I operate.
That's
I can't
awesome.
say no to one,
Yeah.
or, people say, well, why don't you split it? No, just give them the $1,000. And then we started this year also including, giving away a chair.
Yeah.
So that's all part of the grant as well. So yeah, that's fun. But that's the impact that Lynn has had. That's the impact that the wheelchair tennis community has had on me to find a way that I can start giving back.
You've given away 4 or 5 chairs at least.
Through my grant, I think maybe 1 or 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I just started that process of doing not just $1,000, but let's start doing chairs.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've given away a lot of chairs.
Yeah, at our camps.
Yeah.
That is a great opportunity. That's one thing I'll add is at our camps, we always have such amazing, generous donors that step up, that know what we do in West Michigan, and they know the need. And when I look at wheelchair tennis, the one thing that our players need are the sports chairs, right? just like you and I, as an able-bodied, for Brian, we need proper equipment to play. We need proper tennis shoes. You can't go out and play in sandals and flip-flops,
Yeah.
right? And you need good tennis shoes. Well, they need good sports chairs, and they're not cheap. Some insurance companies don't cover that and many don't. It's very rare that they do. And usually we give 1 or 2 sports chairs, depending each year, sponsors that step up. This past year I had 4, which was record breaking.
Wow.
Just friends of mine in the community that maybe have local foundations, that, when I share about what I do and they come out and they see it and they're like, I want to make this happen. I want this kid to be able to play tennis because I play tennis, and it's so much easier for us as able-bodied to drive 10, 15 minutes to the next club to go play tennis and to go to a drill, to go to a tournament, to go to a league match. For some of these kids, they have to travel a lot further. There's not as many opportunities. And if I can open those doors to those kids, and their parents, and, I think Brian and I, when we give away the chairs at the end, to see the parents and the kids, it melts your heart, and the tears of, really, I just won a $3,500, $4,000 chair that is being gifted to me, because you showed up at this camp and you invested in your child. And this is what we want. We want you as a parent to support your kids' endeavors, to, as a lifelong, they could play, use it at school, give this kid the tools to be successful. Otherwise, you're getting used junky old chairs that a program doesn't want. They just hand it off, and it, sits in someone's garage and it's broken. And who wants broken equipment?
You're right.
Your old hand-me-down stuff. You got to have the right equipment to be successful. And, at the end of our camp, when we get together with all the instructors and, we vote on, the kids that we feel, are deserving, the kids that we feel that, could really use a chair, that don't have the resources in their community. And that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the look on their face. I think the kids are trying to process, I'm getting a chair. And then the parents are very excited, but even to know that when they leave, we just got a chair.
Yeah.
That's $4,000 or $5,000 that we just got a chair. So
yeah, I will say it's a wheelchair tennis chair is one of the biggest obstacles that we run into with getting kids involved in wheelchair tennis. And kind of to what you said about tennis shoes, I always equate it to, just imagine playing tennis with brick shoes. It's a very similar thing. If you play in your everyday chair, like it's literally like you playing able-bodied tennis with brick shoes. It's very, very hard to do, and it's not going to get anybody to the level that they could potentially get to. So, and they could cost as upward as $5,000 as well. Like they get ridiculously expensive, and it's thanks to organizations like and donors and stuff like that help make it possible for those kids. And the other thing that I'll say is every tennis wheelchair is customized to the exact dimensions of that kid. So some kids have longer legs, some kids are skinnier, some kids need to sit up higher, some kids don't have very much balance, so you need to adjust the chair properly, right? And so like putting them into a used wheelchair is good. It's a step up from their everyday chair, but it's not helping them be one with the chair so that they can be the best they possibly can be on the court. So
Absolutely.
yeah. The other thing, where can people go to find your the Lynn Bender Hunter Heck?
Well, we could get the link up, but yeah, it's on the USTA site, the Education Foundation site.
Yeah.
So
okay.
it's just about 3 clicks.
Yeah.
If you do that little bit of research.
Yep. You guys can find it in the description. It'll be there once this video airs. So go to the description and you'll see it there. So awesome. Anything else about the USTA Midwest Wheelchair Tennis Committee that you guys want to bring up?
I think we covered it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think we rocked it out. great support staff. I mean, we couldn't do it without our staff
Yeah.
that buys into what we do,
Mhm.
and they see it, and we're a very visible working committee, put
Yeah.
it that way. The USTA Midwest has several volunteer committees of all different types. And the adaptive committee, which covers all your adaptive groups and your para-standing group, is
Mhm.
also a very active committee. But in our wheelchair committee, we're very active. We put ourselves out there, but the rewards are amazing
Yeah.
to see the growth. And I think that's what keeps us going.
Yeah,
For sure.
I do want to touch on one more thing that you talked about, and that's travel. So, you heard Lynn say that we have 2 wheelchair tennis camps in all of the Midwest, and we only have 3 wheelchair tennis tournaments in all the Midwest. And so, if you think about like an able-bodied league, there's tournaments going on all
Yeah.
the time in their local city. Obviously, if that player gets better, they'll need to travel a little bit more to those more elite tournaments, but just to get that kid in the door to do tournaments, most of them are going to have to travel, and the travel expenses are one of the other things that is a big cost. I don't know that I got it. Is there a gnat on my nose,
You got 'em.
guys?
I think you got them.
Yeah, but anyway, that's one of the big that's one
Yeah.
of the other big expenses. If you do like want to play competitive tennis, like when I was a junior, I was traveling from California to Florida to Europe. So it does get expensive, and it's thanks to our donors that we
Yeah.
can make it possible.
And I would say, we talk about our pathways. Zach, you had a very competitive pathway as a junior.
Yeah.
And when we get these kids in local programs in our camps, they don't suddenly start out as a competitive player.
Yeah.
Everyone starts out, even in your able-bodied leagues, you're going to start as a beginner player. And we always talk about that of, you have your recreational pathway for adults and kids and a competitive pathway to the Paralympics. If that is your dream, to be on the development team, to be with USTA on that high performance track, that's amazing. And we will help support you in that journey as much as we can to help make you and get you successful, and hopefully give you the tools and the resources from our Midwest section to put that individual on that pathway. But if that's not their pathway, if recreational tennis is, maybe that's where they're going to be, and we have to meet them where they're at.
Sure.
And that's okay. Every kid is out there. If their only goal is just to be able to come to your weekly practice every week for an hour, and that's their social exercise, and that's okay. And sometimes parents need to know that too. Like, oh, my kid might not ever be at that level, but that's okay. They have their pathways, and I think that's important to meet them where they're at, but also kind of dangle that carrot and let them know this is out there if you want it. And if you want the resources, we're here to help you.
Yeah.
To help the parents learn and navigate that system, which can be tricky. And sometimes when we identify kids at our camp, like, we'll take a short video and we'll send it to national, and we'll say, hey, here's a video of a kid that we think has it. We can get on a call with the national staff, and it's pretty cool to get on with their parent and their kid and talk about opportunities, with national, and these are the next stepping stones that person would have to take.
Yeah.
And I want to touch base, and I don't want to get off topic. But I think it's connected.
Let's go. It's all right.
Well, the parents and coaches use our committee as a resource. And what I mean by that is not, okay, the funding, and okay, if you want to apply for a chair, this, we already have our camps and our programs. But if you're in an area that doesn't have a program, go to your club, talk to the director of tennis, talk to the pros, say, hey, I want my child to start playing wheelchair tennis. And I think for me at first, when I met Lynn, it was slightly intimidating. It's not that difficult.
Right.
To just start, and then you start to learn. And then again, we have the resources to help those coaches. I think that's also important. We need more coaches. Okay. And that's where our committee is so supportive. We'll come to a train the trainers. Okay. So we can get, even though they might not have a handful of kids that will be in that program, let's get one coach with one player, and that's how it starts.
Yeah.
Then it grows. But I think the coaches sometimes are a little hesitant. I don't know wheelchair tennis. We'll help you.
Yeah.
Okay. Our
Yeah.
committee is here to help, not just run tournaments.
Yeah.
You know, we want program. We want the players on the court.
Yeah.
So the parents talk to your teaching pro. Say, hey, you want to start a wheelchair, program,
Yeah.
and use us, use our committee.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we'll even go over there. I mean,
Absolutely.
if we need to drive to a club to go work with a pro with a new player one-on-one, we're here for that.
Mm.
We will, find the right person that's in our section on our committee, and we'll send them.
Yeah, so I do want to throw out, like, it doesn't matter what city you're in. You can reach out to us, and at the very least, we can hop on a call. Like, we want to grow it worldwide, right? Like, and that'd be so awesome. And then we are also very connected with all the other committee, everybody around the U.S., even some around the world that we could connect you to. It doesn't matter what country you're in. If you want to get involved, we could potentially help you out. So definitely send me a DM, write it in the messages. We can connect and I can connect you to wherever you are, to anybody. But yeah, we definitely want to help out. And I love that you brought up, like, if somebody wants to, that was my next question. If somebody wants to start a wheelchair tennis event, just what advice, if somebody wanted to start wheelchair tennis, what advice would you give them? And I think from just reaching out to us, finding those resources. One of the other questions and you guys can come back to that first question if you have more things to add, but one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, since you both are able-bodied, you both played tennis as an able-bodied before you got in a wheelchair. How hard was it to learn the wheelchair game?
For me, it was the maneuverability in the chair.
Yeah.
So I have access to chairs. So when I would sometimes hit with Hunter or some of the other players, they would ask me to practice in the chair. And so learning the game, learning the maneuverability was my biggest hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
And then just getting around on the court in the chair.
Yeah.
But like we talked earlier, it's the 2 bounces is the big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, hitting and recovering, but that's what we do as an AB player.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just learning the speed and
Mm-hmm.
learning how to maneuver that chair. I like the fact that I could get in the chair and practice in the chair and, see how it's played from the chair. And that just helped open up my mind and develop stronger as a player and as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Lynn?
Absolutely. And if you don't have a chair, sometimes I would demonstrate the serve down on one knee. Get down on the knee and actually demonstrate if I didn't have a chair handy, just so I can be at their eye level, knowing they got to go up and over that net. But yeah, and any new tennis pro that's out there, one of the other things we like to do is go into the local PTM programs at both Ferris State and Hope College, where they have their Midwest PTM programs. And we do trainings, not every year, but every couple of years when you get a new bunch of students in. We do workshops at the universities, because these are your future tennis pros that are coming out of those college programs, and they're going to be out. And we have volunteer experiences. We do play days with them where we bring in students where they can actually learn and practice. And so that's an area of growth that we want to continue to work with the universities that are going to have the PTM students. They're going to go out and be tennis pros. And how cool would it be? My first job, you got a wheelchair athlete right in your class, and you just get thrown in. That's how you learn.
Yeah, I'll add this. I think one of the other cool things is like basketball and sled hockey are really popular in Cincinnati, right? And we started later than both of those guys, and so we did a tri-day. And they're on opposite seasons. Tennis and basketball and sled hockey are during the winter months. Tennis is during, the summer months, right? Unless you're a collegiate player, and then obviously it's more during the school year. But as far as that goes, if you are looking to grow, you can, one, communicate with like physical therapy companies and maybe Children's Hospital, or you can also do like a tri-day and like get sports that are already established in your city to come out, try wheelchair tennis, and all the other sports. So it allows them to invite other people to try their sports, and then you can maybe get some cross compatibility with somebody who plays wheelchair basketball does wheelchair tennis.
Right.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Finding the communities where there's already other sports is huge.
yeah.
And it does, if someone's looking to start a program, they can call us, reach out to us. But it will take a little work at the
Yeah.
beginning to get a hold of those locations and set up those phone calls and those meetings. You have to find your population. I always say it's like a table that has three legs. You have to have, in order to be a successful program, you need to have a teaching pro,
Mm.
you need to have a location, you need to have a club, and you need to have players.
Mm.
So you need those three legs in order to be successful. And if not, if you're missing one, if you've got the pro and you've got the club, that's great.
Did you just say three legs?
Well,
for wheelchair tennis?
Funny.
I got it.
Sorry.
Three ends of the table. Try a tripod.
Yeah.
But if you've got the club and you've got the pro, but you're missing the players,
Yeah.
we need that. If
Yeah.
you've got players and you've got a pro, but guess what? We don't have a location, right? And if there's always one of those missing, you got to try to find the pieces of the pie to make it all happen. And once you do, bingo. That's how it starts.
Yeah.
And we find that we do get approached with more programs or individuals that want to run a tournament.
Yeah.
We get this a lot.
Yes.
Hey, we want to run a wheelchair tennis tournament. And we say, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's run a wheelchair tennis program.
Yeah.
Well, let's get coaches trained.
Yeah.
Let's find the players.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's start a 6-8 week program.
Yeah.
From there, we'll open up that door to maybe doing a tournament.
Right.
Let's get people on the court playing.
Right.
Before we have this grand tournament that you've planned out in your mind.
Yeah.
Let's
With
get a program.
with no local players.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You want to have your local players be your base support.
Yeah.
And, we get it. Some people get excited, like, I just want to run a tournament.
Right.
Mm.
It's different than running a USTA boys 14s or 16s tournament where people just automatically travel from all over the Midwest. It's like, you got to have a hotbed of some players that's going to, form that beginning group of core players. And then once they start networking, then let's build to, a one-day event. Get your club players involved. Get your able-bodied people. Start networking, and then we'll go there.
Yeah, I love that. My next question is, how can people get involved, especially if there's already tennis in their city? And I'll just answer this real quick. Like volunteers, they can volunteer. You only need to know how to toss a ball for some of the more entry level kids. There's obviously coaching. There's donating. If you want to know what's in your area, it's usually a simple Google search. You can reach out to one of us as well, and we can do that. Yeah. So anything to add there? For
like
how
us on our Facebook page. We put all of our flyers, grants, events that come up, programs. We're very active on that, which is the USTA Midwest Wheelchair Tennis. And that's where players can stay updated of, if there's a tournament or an event that's somewhere within the Midwest section, we put it all up there. So it's a great way for people to get it. And I know one thing I'll just add is, next year, 2026, we're super excited. It'll be 50 years of growing wheelchair tennis next year. So we'll be planning some big events and big things for next year. So look for that. So we're super excited to celebrate next year in the Midwest section.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to get involved, just reach out. Whatever they want. If it's a coach, if it's a player, if it's somebody just wants to volunteer, somebody just wants to donate. Once we get that communication, then we can direct them.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to manage.
Yeah. I love that. Man, I don't know if you realize, but we've been going for an hour and 53 minutes. There's so much more that I want to ask you guys, but I'll do like maybe 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll call it. My first one, Lynn, I wanted to get to your husband, Kurt, because there's a story that I remember from him early on that really made an impact on my life. And so I grew up with ADD, and I said something along those lines to Kurt, and I think he sensed that I I thought it was a bad thing or a bad quality about me. And he said something like, I think people with ADD, they're just hyper smart, and they get distracted because and bored really easily, and so I think a lot of times that's why somebody has ADD, is because they're so smart that they can keep up with things, and then they get distracted because things are just too boring for them. And he said something along those lines, and ever since I was a kid, like I remember that we were at a tournament. It was inside. We were outside the courts, and I just remember very vividly Kurt saying that to me. So he's made an impact on my life. Obviously, you two have made an impact on my life, but just wanted to share that. What's that?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. Anyway, let me ask you. I'm going through all the different questions. Let me ask you about what is your disability, for probably the last question. So the question of people asking, what's your disability? And I don't care if a complete stranger comes up to me and says, hey, what's your disability? Why are you in a wheelchair? But and I don't know if you want to get into this at all, but I know Kurt has a pretty heart-wrenching story as far as that goes, and you might not want to he might not want to share that, right?
Yeah, I think, when people are new to being around people in chairs, if they're volunteering, right, and it's their first time, or a new coach, people are inquisitive. People are, nosy, or, we just want to know sometimes maybe how they got into a chair. You want to know the reason, or what's the real story behind it. And, I think that'll come with time. Once you get to know people, just like anyone, you wouldn't go up and ask some random personal question to anybody, whether they're in a chair or not, and until you really get to know the person on a deeper level. And then it may come out with that trust factor.
Yeah.
It may come in a conversation outside of how it happened. Or, some questions are maybe how long you've been in a chair, might be a door that can open.
Oh,
Or,
yeah.
if you're a coach trying to evaluate a player, or, what's your level of injury? That can start a dialogue of, well, I'm a spinal cord, I'm a T7, T8, or no, I'm spina bifida. Well, okay, can you bend forward? Can you balance? Can you put your arms out to the side? Asking some of the questions of what they can do versus, how it happened. And, because everyone might be at a different level and a different stage of recovery and grieving process. Some might be fairly fresh out of rehab. If you've got a new therapist taking a patient out for the first time, they're still an outpatient. Their injury may have only been 2 months ago, and maybe it was traumatic. Maybe that's something they're just not ready to talk about.
Yeah.
And maybe people died because of traumatic, incidents. So I think, people just have to be a little sensitive of, don't force the conversations just because we want to know, but it'll come with time.
Yeah.
Through the journey. And it may not be on your time. It may be when the person's ready.
Yeah. I like to talk about my disability because it gets the elephant out of the room. It gets rid of that curiosity.
Yeah.
And so I'll crack a wheelchair joke, or like in most interviews, I'll tell them, like job interviews, I'll tell them about my disability, like pretty, like right off the bat. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic of different people being, like just different scenarios of why people are in wheelchairs, and that being more sensitive to others and all that. So
I know Kurt loves it that when kids will come up to him, like in a grocery store and,
me
at
too.
the airport, and, the parents are like, oh no, don't go up there. And he's like, no, it's okay. Come on up. They look at the wheels and, to open up those safe conversations. Like, he loves it when kids come up, and then he's like, yep, I was in a car accident. Yep. And I broke my back and I use a wheelchair, and it's an opportunity. And then it like, oh, okay. It lets the guard down. And then the parents are like, oh, and he'll say, it's okay. Let it, I want to talk to him, and the kids will ask questions. And so, yeah, every scenario is different, but a lot of times, it depends.
Yeah.
he'll give an opportunity.
Yeah, I try to let relationships grow as a coach. And like Lynn said, if the student is comfortable starting to tell me, I mean, I'll watch and see their mobility, can they bend this way or that way? And then as our relationship becomes stronger, then, typically the conversations become deeper.
Yeah.
Then the information starts to come out. But I like the players to go at their pace.
Yeah.
I do not pry at all. I'm watching their tennis. How much tennis do you want? Where do I, this is going to be a good player. Is this a player that's just out there to be a rec player?
Yeah.
And I go from there and I let it develop. And, more friendly topics is what I want to know. So
Yeah. I like it. What's next for you guys, for Midwest, for tennis? Anything that you want to share there briefly?
Well, we're winding down 2025. It's been a busy year. We're coming down to the end of our season and our camps and our trainings. Just looking ahead for 2026 with, I think celebrating 50 years with our sport, across the country with United States. I think things will be coming down both internationally as well as nationally, of more opportunities. We don't have all those details out yet, but look for those coming, in January in 2026. But I think the Midwest section, we're starting in the brainstorming stages of what we can do to also help celebrate that around our section.
Yeah. Hopefully grow the sport.
I think the 50-year celebration is going to be big. I think I know the Midwest section wants to celebrate it on several different levels, and we'll see where that goes. I think with my new position with the Midwest section, and being involved so much with wheelchair tennis and still being a part with the committee, it's going to grow bigger. We've got some big plans. And now that I'm at the sectional office, watch out.
Watch out.
Lynn and I,
we're going big.
It's going to be dangerous.
Go big or go home. Let's go.
All right, some closing questions. What's one thing you hope listeners take away from our conversation today, Brian?
Well, my word I always use is just awareness. That wheelchair sports, wheelchair tennis exists. How can, if you want to get involved, if you're a coach, if you're a player, wow, I can go play, or I'm a coach, I can coach. All I have to do is call this committee and they're going to get me started. Or if you want to volunteer and just help. Lynn mentioned something earlier about, we have our friends that reach out to us, if they see wheelchair tennis on TV. So
that's awesome. I love that.
The awareness is happening, and I see wheelchair tennis more on TV now, especially with the US Open. So, continue to be aware. If you have questions, contact us, contact the committee, ask, don't hesitate. And if you know somebody, somebody always knows somebody. Somebody knows somebody that's in a chair. Can't we get them active?
Yeah. Lynn?
Spot on. Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, good stuff. And, this year at the Cincinnati Open was amazing. The first year, we flew in 4 of our top players from the country, from national, that came in and did an exhibition. And it was our first year doing high performance level of players. And I think that's, we at a venue where we can expose wheelchair tennis to thousands and thousands of people walking through the grounds, it just gives us a platform for next year to be able to what can we do even bigger and better next year?
Right.
Can we turn it into more players? Can we get them more court time? And just, have them practice on the courts next to the pro players. I mean, that's professional high level tennis, the players that are playing in our Grand Slams. And that's what we want is, it was our first year at that high level. And it just, I think we all agreed it was a win-win. I mean, to showcase the best of the best.
Yeah.
And have those short conversations with people walking by on their way to go see Alcaraz and Sinner. They stop for 5-10 minutes and they just learn and we talk and we give them nuggets of information right there on the spot.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else that you guys are like, man, I really want to talk about this before we wrap up?
Oh, I'm excited for the camp now.
Yeah.
Fired up.
Right?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Game on. We're ready.
Let's go. Let's go make an impact on those kids.
Yes.
Where, if you're comfortable sharing, where can people find you? And this is public, so if you don't want them to find you anywhere, that's fine. But
Well,
Midwest
Go to-
USTA.
yeah. Go to the Midwest website. Our information is on the website for USTA Midwest Wheelchair Tennis.
.com.
Yep. And then go to the Facebook page, USTA Midwest Wheelchair Tennis. You can message us on there.
Yep.
And it'll come and you can ask any questions on there and like us on the Facebook page.
Yep, I agree. Use social media. Yeah,
Okay.
we're easy to find.
Awesome. Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. It means the world to me that you both came in from out of town. You're helping me out with this junior camp that we're doing today, and you found time to come on the podcast. I see a part 2 coming up because I sent
What? Wait a minute.
in the next 2 years or something like that. Nothing relatively soon, but like I'd love to do a part 2 because like there's so much that I sent you guys the agenda. I'd say we covered maybe 3/4 of it. So there's so much more that I think that we could talk about, from just the disability nuances and maybe more of the dynamic about your relationship with Kurt and how that works, and how you care, give for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Stop. No.
No, I know, right? I'm just totally kidding. But yeah, I mean, it was a great conversation, and there's so much more just general tennis and wheelchair tennis that we could discuss. But we are out of time. Again, thank you guys both for coming.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today on the Rolling Forward podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to like, subscribe, or leave a comment. I want to hear what keeps you rolling forward. My next t-shirt idea or something you heard today that stuck with you. Definitely put that in the comments. I'm for it all. If you want to see more t-shirts like this is says I can't stand wheelchair jokes. You can go to rollingforward.printful.me. You can pick one of these up. This is my creation. There's a whole bunch of other funny ones on there. And if you've got a story worth sharing and fits the theme of what we're doing here today, I'd love to hear from you. You could be my next guest. Until next time, keep rolling forward. Thanks all.